Welcome to Project Management. In this video, I will talk about how to evaluate and select projects that are aligned with the organizational strategy. Implementation of projects needs a strong priority system. Otherwise, problems will arise. The first type of problem is called the implementation gap. This is because in most organizations, top management formulates strategy and leaves strategy implementation to functional managers. There could be a lack of understanding or consensus between top management and functional managers who implement the strategy. If top management just picks top 20 projects without priorities and give them to functional managers to implement, and there may be multiple functional departments like marketing, finance, operations, engineering, IT, and HR. Each functional department may select the projects based on their own preferences. A project may be ranked first in the IT department because it involves new challenging and interesting technologies. But the same project may be ranked last in the marketing department because the demand of the new product is still uncertain. As a result, implementation of these projects without priority will lead to conflicts of interest over the allocation of limited organizational resources. If conflicts occur frequently among functional managers, it will cause lack of trust. If this condition continues, it's impossible to effectively implement organizational strategy. The second type of problem caused by the lack of a project priority system is organizational politics. Organizational politics are informal, unofficial, and sometimes behind-the-scene efforts to influence people, increase power, or achieve other targeted objectives. Politics exist in every organization and can have a significant influence on which project receive funding and high priority. If there is no formal project priority system, then projects may be selected purely based on the favoritism, nepotism, persuasiveness, and power of people advocating these projects. Then there could be many secret cow or pet projects going on. A powerful, high-ranking official may be advocating these projects due to irrational obsessions. Many people may argue that politics and project management should not mix. But if you want to become an effective project manager, you must realize that any significant project has political ramifications. The third type of problem caused by the lack of a project priority system is inefficient resource sharing and multitasking. The number of projects almost always exceeds the available resources, typically by a factor of 3 to 4 times. Excessive resource sharing results in multitasking, which involves starting, stopping, and restarting projects over and over again. People working on several tasks concurrently are far less efficient, especially when conceptual or physical shutdown and startup take long time. Endless multitasking can exhaust the team and cause project delays and cost overruns. It's important to follow a logical and defined process and a set of criteria for evaluating and selecting the projects to implement. Portfolio management is to ensure that projects are aligned with strategic goals and prioritized appropriately. The advantages of successful project portfolio systems are becoming well recognized in project-driven organizations. For example, it helps build discipline into the project selection process. It links project selection and resource allocation to strategic metrics. It can be used to prioritize project proposals across a common set of criteria, rather than politics or emotion. It balances risk across all projects. When the time comes, it makes it easier to kill projects that don't support organizational strategy. Design of a project portfolio system should include the following 4 aspects. Find out which class a project belongs to. Define the project selection criteria. Evaluate the collected proposals and manage the portfolio of approved projects after evaluation. We will talk about these aspects one by one. It's common to classify projects into 4 basic types. Compliance projects are those need to meet regulatory conditions. There will be penalty if they are not implemented. Example projects in this category include mounting fire escape outside of an apartment building, installing exit signs and fire extinguishers inside the building. These are also called must-do projects. Emergency projects are not like compliance projects that are bound by law. Examples include rebuilding an auto parts factory destroyed by tsunami and recovering a crashed network in an office building. These projects need to be done to bring organizational business back to normal operation. Operational projects are those that needed to improve the efficiency of current operations. For example, equipment or software upgrades can reduce product costs and improve system performance. Strategic projects such as the design and development of a new line of products are those that directly support the organization's long-term mission. Project selection criteria are typically divided into 2 groups, financial and non-financial. Examples of financial criteria include the payback period and the net present value, NPV. Non-financial criteria are usually based on how much the projects contribute to the strategic missions of the company. The payback period measures the number of years it will take to recover the project investment. The shorter, the better. The payback period is equal to the estimated project total cost divided by the annual savings. The return on investment, or ROI, is the reciprocal of the payback period. It measures the portion of the investment that will be recovered every year. The higher, the better. Let's use an example to see how to compare projects based on their payback periods. Project A has an initial investment of $350,000 and estimated cash inflows of $115,000 per year for 4 years. Project B has an initial investment of $200,000 and estimated cash inflows of $55,000 per year for 4 years. The payback period of Project A is the initial investment $350,000 divided by annual savings $115,000, and it equals 3.04 years. Similarly, the payback period of Project B is 3.64 years. Project A will take shorter time to recover its initial investment. Both projects seem acceptable because they can recover the initial investment in less than 4 years. We can also compare these 2 projects based on their return on investment value. For Project A, it's equal to 1 over the payback period, 3.04 years. The result is 32.9%, which means Project A will recover 32.9% of its initial investment per year. Similarly, Project B will recover 27.5% of its initial investment per year. If a company's minimum required rate of return is 20% per year, then both projects are acceptable and should be selected if budget allows. If the minimum required rate of return is 30% per year, then only Project A is acceptable because its ROI value is greater than 30%. The payback and return on investment measures are simple to calculate and straightforward to understand. However, one major drawback of these measures is that they ignore the time value of money, which is the key concept of engineering economics. To consider the time value of money, the net present value, or NPV, should be used instead. It uses management's minimum required rate of return to compute the present value of all net cash inflows in the future n years. In this equation, T is the time period index in years. I0 is the initial investment. Because it's an outflow, its value is negative. Ft is the net cash flow in year T. It could be positive or negative. Little r is the minimum required rate of return. If the calculated net present value is positive, then it means the project meets minimum required rate of return and is eligible for further consideration. If the net present value is negative, then the project should be rejected. Let's review the previous example, but this time we try to calculate the net present values. We apply the net present value formula here. Initial investment is negative $350,000. Annual net cash flow is positive $115,000. It lasts for 4 years. Let's assume the minimum required rate of return for this example is 10%, or 0.1. This number will be different for different organizations. After calculation, Project A is acceptable because it has a positive net present value of over $14,000. Project B should be rejected since the net present value is negative. One problem with the financial-based project selection models is that sometimes the financial return is very difficult to estimate accurately before the project is completed. Another problem is that some high-return projects do not always align well with organization strategies. Therefore, some other criteria must be considered beyond direct financial return. For example, a firm may support projects that don't have high profit margins just for strategic reasons. Some of the strategic reasons are listed here. It could be that this project will increase the market share of your products, or it may make it more difficult for your competitors to enter the market. A project may be developing an enabler product that is not so profitable, but it may increase sales of other more profitable products depending on it. For example, long-lasting batteries may not be so profitable, but they may increase the sales of highly profitable smartphones. A project may not be so profitable by itself, but it may increase the reliability of the supply chain. Some compliance projects are done just because of government regulations. Other projects are done to restore corporate image, enhance brand recognition, or support relations with local communities. The checklist model is one of the non-financial models. It uses a list of questions to review multiple potential projects and determine which ones should be accepted and which ones should be rejected. Sample questions used in practice could be: what specific organizational strategy does this project align with? How will we measure the success of this project? Who is the project sponsor? What is the project's risk to our organization? What are the project objectives? Will internal resources be available for this project? How long will this project take? What is the estimated cost of the project? How does this project fit into current portfolio? And so on. These questions must be customized for each organization. The checklist model has some obvious limitations. It could not provide a quantifiable measure to tell the value of a potential project to the organization. It fails to allow for comparison with other potential projects. If one project received 3 check marks and the other one received just 2, but for different questions, can we just say that the first one is better than the second one? Probably not. Therefore, this approach may leave the door open to the potential opportunity for power politics, favoritism, and other forms of manipulation. Another non-financial model is a multi-weighted scoring model. It uses several weighted selection criteria to evaluate project proposals. Each selection criterion is assigned a weight. Each project is assigned a score for that criterion based on its importance. The weights and scores are multiplied to get a weighted total for each project. This model allows for comparison of projects with other potential projects. This is a greatly simplified example. Each role is a criterion and is assigned a weight. Whether a project will likely enhance an organization's core competencies is weighted 20% in this evaluation. Whether the project is aligned with the organization's strategy is weighted 30% and so on. The total weight of these 4 criteria is 100%. Each column is a potential project. After review, Project 1 is assigned a score of 8 out of 10 in the first cell because it's very likely it will enhance core competencies. It's assigned a score of 9 out of 10 in the second cell because it's highly aligned with the organizational strategy, and so on. After all the cells are filled for Project 1, we will be able to multiply the scores by the weights for this project and sum them up to get the weighted total. That is, 20% times 8, plus 30% times 9, plus 10% times 5, plus 40% times 4. The weighted total is 6.4. For projects 2 and 3, do the same thing. We will get the weighted total for them as well. They are 6.2 and 7.1 respectively. Project 3 has the highest weighted score and is considered the best potential project. If the resources available create a cutoff threshold at 7 points, we would eliminate projects 1 and 2 because their weighted totals are lower than 7. With the project selection criteria in place, project proposals can be solicited. The project proposal solicitation can be posted internally, so only people from within the organization can be on the project team. Sometimes the knowledge required for the project is not available in the organization. Then the solicitation will be posted publicly so it's open to external sponsors like contractors and vendors. The solicitation is usually named Call for Proposals or Request for Proposals. The technical requirements and the format of the submitted proposals could be quite different depending on the nature of the projects. The whole proposal could be as short as 3 pages. It could also be over 100 pages long, including technical proposal, budget and justification, personnel qualification, data management plan, legal and compliance documents, collaboration and supporting letters, etc. Many call for proposals also requires an executive summary to highlight the key information in the proposal. After a project has been selected, it will be included in the portfolio system. Portfolio management involves the efforts of senior management and the governance team, like a project management office. The responsibility of senior management includes providing guidance in selecting criteria that are aligned with organization's strategic goals. They also decide how to balance available resources among current projects. For example, 20% should be compliance projects, 50% strategic projects, and 30% operational projects. A project management office, PMO, publishes the priority of every ongoing project and monitors its progress. The project management office also reevaluates the organization's goals and priorities annually, ensures that the project selection process is open and transparent, and minimizes power politics. A major responsibility of the senior management and the project management office is to balance projects by type, risk, and resource demand. A proposed project that ranks high on most criteria still may not be selected because the organization portfolio already includes too many projects in the same category. Some researchers proposed to separate projects in terms of degree of difficulty and commercial value, and came up with 4 basic types of projects in any portfolio. Bread and butter projects are easy to accomplish, and they produce modest value. They typically involve evolutionary improvements to current products and services. Examples like software upgrades and manufacturing cost reduction efforts are bread and butter projects. These projects will make your company survive in the competitive market. Pearls are low-risk and high-value projects. They represent revolutionary commercial opportunities using proven technology advances. One example is the IBM Watson system that integrates all the existing technologies. But the final product is such a success that will provide long-term benefits for the company. These projects will make your company thrive. Oysters are projects with high risk and potentially high value. Each oyster may or may not carry a pearl inside. Before you open it, you never know. These projects usually involve technological breakthroughs with high commercial payoffs. One example is Elon Musk's SpaceX interplanetary transport system. The goal of this project is to develop reusable spaceflight technology for crewed interplanetary space travel. Watch these two short videos about the SpaceX project. White elephants are projects that showed promise at one time, but are no longer viable, or projects that only look good and consume resources but do not create any value. Examples are products for saturated market or products with toxic side effects like the leaded gas. Lead was used pre-1970s to reduce engine knocking, boost octane readings, and help with wear and tear in the engine. Due to concerns over air pollution and health risks, this type of gas was slowly phased out and banned altogether in all on-road vehicles in the United States in 1995. Organizations often have too many white elephants and too few pearls and oysters. To maintain strategic advantage, it is recommended that organizations take advantage of pearls, eliminate white elephants, and balance resources devoted to bread and butter and oyster projects to be aligned with the overall organizational strategy. Codenames are commonly used in military projects or in espionage. For example, the Manhattan Project is a codename for the super-secret project to develop nuclear bombs during World War II because they began the research in a building located in Manhattan, New York. Two nuclear bombs used in the war were codenamed Little Boy and Fat Man. Another reason for the use of codenames and phrases in the military is that they transmit with a lower level of cumulative errors over a walkie-talkie or radio communication than actual names. Like in the phonetic alphabet table, A for Alpha, B for Bravo, C for Charlie, etc. Because there could be many ongoing projects in a project portfolio, to ease communication within the organization, civilian business projects can also be given unique codenames. For example, the Android operating systems were codenamed after candy and other sweets like Jelly Bean, Kit Kat, Lollipop, Marshmallow, Nougat, Oreo, and Pie. Apple's macOS X's many releases were named after big cats such as Jaguar, Tiger, Panther, and Leopard. Codenames can be used in counter-industrial espionage to protect secret projects from business rivals, or to give names to projects whose market name has not yet been determined. In this video, we talked about why the organization needs to have a project priority system. We applied financial and non-financial criteria to assess the value of projects. We also explained the project portfolio and codenames. This is Wang, and I'll see you in the next video.